They say that those of us who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. When I say they, I mean that I say that, and I always have. And if you go and repeat it, you need to mail me a quarter to P.O. Box 0000001.5, Los Angeles, California, and the appropriate zip code. So today, the boys are going to be talking about a movie called A Dozen Monkeys. Now, I sat down and I watched about 5 minutes of this movie myself in preparation for the podcast, because that's what I always do. I prepare for the things that are important in my life, like podcasts and snow sledding and going to the supermarket. This movie does not have 12 of any type of primate in it, as far as I can tell. Unless, of course, you include Bruce Willis, which I do, and he's got a couple different hairstyles in it, so maybe that all adds up to 12. Take that and add in Madeline Stone, the Brad Pitt, and you got yourself a bang up Terry Gilliam movie that the boys are going to talk about in a little bit. So enjoy the 9-ape thing. Bye.
Busy daddies do sci-fi. Busy daddies do sci-fi. Busy daddies do sci-fi. Busy daddies do sci-fi.
I don't think we could do it enough.
Well, that's the face you make?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, normally all I do is I look you in the eye and I give you a thumbs up.
She's a lucky gal. Don't make eye contact.
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
Shh. Hold on, just 1 minute.
Don't tell me you like Star Wars and then get upset when I make the Jabba the Hutt laugh. God.
Uh-huh.
Jabba the Hutt.
Jabba boating.
Are you you all caught up on Mandalorian?
I know. I'm not.
Wow.
I'm Neglectalorian.
You're not a Mandalorian. You're a Boydalorian.
Yes.
Oh well, someday.
But did we do a Mandalorian? We haven't done a Mandalorian at all.
We haven't done a Mandalorian at all. It's been a long winter, Kevin.
Wow. Big winter break.
Big, long winter. 2 years since Mandalorian's come out. No, came out a year ago.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to say this, man.
Mandalorian.
Isn't that just on the suck pile? And
wow.
And I remember you and I talking about it. And you were like, no, I mean, you with your massive media intake were just like, there's like 5 episodes that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
Which is a good argument for suck.
No, because you could take lots of shows that I enjoy, that are not revolutionary, like you got as far from like the spectrum being like the original Star Trek to The Wire. And a lot of the original Star Trek, which I love, a lot of it is garbage. Almost every episode of The Wire is amazing. I still love Star Trek.
Okay.
But like with The Mandalorian, you got like episode 1 and 2 are great, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6 are like, oh, okay, they did that, and then the finale is amazing. So it's sort of just like, okay, it's a redemptive. It was sort of the way like Walking Dead got for me. Was most of the season was terrible, and then they'd have one moment in a show that was better than most seasons of television. That doesn't do it for
That's,
you.
Just
That
imagine
doesn't
if
do
that
it.
was a
All right.
just imagine if that was a relationship.
That's all my relationships. It's like a majority
I was
really
gonna
bad, and then every
as
once
soon as
in a
I
while,
said it, I was like, maybe it's a maybe it's just a metaphor.
maybe it's just the way I roll.
Maybe all relationships just can't be every season of The Wire.
Wow, that'd be that. If you find that one, you hang on to them.
So, Mandalorian season 2, then how many expendable episodes?
Probably a lot less, maybe 2 out of the 8.
And isn't it? So I guess my biff is just like, the sort of just Star Warsification of things
Of the world, yes.
Is it just kind of really kills me to like see how psyched people are for it. I don't know. That's cynical, man, but like there's sort of like a you fucking whores.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, man.
No,
I
there's
don't know which
certainly
one
that.
is which. Yeah.
That sentiment is alive and well, and not terribly inaccurate. You know, like when you look at Disney celebrations and you've got Darth Vader dancing to "You Can't Touch This" and stuff like that.
Well, also like I have a theory that if Star Wars made a snuff film, there'd be people taking their kids to it.
I have the trilogy, the Star Wars snuff trilogy. Let's stop for a second and marvel at humanity for having created something like snuff films.
That's actually no. I'm only using that for humor. That's horrible.
Horrible. That
horrible.
We are terrible. This species. Maybe I mean it's almost as though we don't deserve to be on this planet, Kevin.
Really, George?
What?
Nothing. Nothing. I'm just listening.
So you say really as though I'm at the tail end of it, when really all I'm doing here is I'm shoveling coal in the fire, I'm stoking up the pipes, and I'm getting us ready for a classic little segue here.
Yeah.
So, you know, like there's a line of thought that maybe nature has something in store for us. I mean, you could certainly look around right now at the current atmosphere and say that, you know, we're kind of suffering the byproducts of our own hubris. You know, there's no.
I mean, who's hubris?
Well,
the people eating bats. Is that what are you gonna do, man? What's really going on here?
It's about time this podcast got around to taking down the real enemy of America, those bat-eating sons of bitches.
Yes. Oh, who probably love the. Oh man, I was about to. There is. If I said the Mandalorian, but do you know how many L's and R's are in the Mandalorian? Do you know what I could have done with that in 1989?
Oh yeah.
I just watched. I'm just going to give you one clue, listener. I just watched A Christmas Story. Think of the end scene.
Wow. Pretty good.
Did you get it, George?
Yes, I did.
The Manda.
All right. Okay. You can't mouth it on a podcast, Kevin. It's not. You've got people, blind people with heightened senses of hearing, just went, "Oh my God, Kevin!"
Do you remember when Vic was having us sign parts of the podcast?
Yeah. Right.
For the hearing impaired?
Yeah.
That was weird. Although I kind of liked it. Hold on, I'll give you that joke in sign language.
All right. Yeah. See, what's amazing is nothing is lost in the translation. What's more amazing is the thousands of dollars in sign language lessons that he floated the bill for. Although I do believe he got some PPE funds from the government for that whole deal here.
Exactly.
And he's fully liquid right now, which is why we're both enjoying Blue Diamond almonds. This show brought to you by Blue Diamond almonds, when you want your almonds to taste like diamonds.
Yeah.
And flavored seltzer. So I don't know, Kevin. I feel as though our future could possibly be a little bleak if we were to let the more irresponsible elements of our society sort of just get a stranglehold on it. Every once in a while somebody comes along who spouts about how humanity is a plague and we need to sort of be taken down a notch because we are continually reaping what we sow, and what we are reaping and sowing is the destruction of nature. And nature's going to fight back. Maybe through some sort of a virus or some sort of illness. We seem to be rather susceptible to these things. They certainly put a halt to our livelihoods and our ability to congregate. Maybe even stop going to the zoo and seeing seeing
One,
animals.
2, 3, 4.
Here's a tricky thing. All right, about this segue.
Yeah.
Once I get to zoo, I was up all night trying to write this thing. Once I get to zoo, it's damn impossible because there's no zoo that has a dozen monkeys just floating around.
No way.
No, I've seen a lot of monkeys.
I've seen 6 or so. Do they call that? Is that a murder of monkeys?
You know what?
Is that the wrong term?
Do you know what a collection of butterflies is called?
A gazanga.
You're close. It's called a kaleidoscope.
I bet it is.
It is. So it's a kaleidoscope of monkeys.
Yeah.
That was the original title of this movie that we're going to talk about. Kaleidoscope Monkeys.
A dozen. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I would have loved if this movie, like around the studio, was referred to as Dozen Monkeys. Like, oh yeah, he's on that Dozen Monkeys picture.
Duzmo.
The Duzmo. He's cranking it out. Terry Gilliam, who got famous doing animation for Monty Python and then directing Monty Python clips and movies, has leaped away from the Monty Python land and he's made a few quality films of his own. And we're going to be talking about one of them tonight. That is continuing our Bruce Willis time travel suite. We're going to be discussing Terry Gilliam's 12 Monkeys.
Yes. Or Un Doce Monos.
Un Doce Moneca.
No.
Yes.
No. Momeca.
No, Moneca. That's monkey.
In which language?
Venezuelan, clearly.
Yes.
Kevin, we have a huge Venezuelan contingency that follows this show.
We did.
Now they're gone.
They're gone.
Because you butchered their language. You did that.
Lost the deaf again.
It's all right. They weren't listening to begin with.
Yeah. Rude.
Seriously. 12 Monkeys. I remember seeing commercials for as a kid, and it being one of those movies that I knew looked weird but cool. Like it was sort of like I'm 14 or so, 15 years old, and I'm watching like Access Hollywood or Entertainment Tonight or something, and they're doing like a 12 Monkeys report, and I see this young dude playing alongside, and I know Bruce Willis. Everybody knows Bruce Willis at that point. And there's this young dude playing alongside of him, and I'm like, oh, that guy's cool, man. There's just something about him that's cool. And that's Brad Pitt playing a lunatic rich kid who may be responsible for a global pandemic that leads to the dystopian future.
Exactly.
Maybe responsible.
Which is very cool. I'd forgotten that maybe part, by the way.
Future. We're in the future. We start off. Boom.
Had BP done 7 yet?
This is I believe it's post 7. Yeah. So I mean, he did 12 before 7. Or 7 before 12, which is, I mean, that's how you go if you want to make it in Hollywood. You don't do the big ones first.
Exactly.
you do one for you and one for them and one for you, and then that's how. And it's all French fries after that.
Oh man. Was Bruce Willis married to, I'm just trying to set the stage here. Was Bruce married to Demi Monkey?
She was, Demi Monkey was still in the mix. This was before striptease, which I believe is what ruined their relationship. I'm making that up.
Did it?
I think I remember seeing like, oh yeah, he hated that Demi Moore was naked and everything. And I'd forgotten that they were like the power couple in the like the early 90s. It's like Bruce and Demi doing their thing.
That's great. Cool. So now the stage has been set. We're all wearing extra large shirts, funky colors.
And it's very tight plastic if you want to go outside.
Yeah. Which is, yeah, exactly. The world, as we're in Philadelphia. What year is it? 2035?
We're in 2030. Yeah, 2030s. I'm not sure exactly.
2030s.
But immediately, like it looks, as soon as he starts putting on the apparatus to go outside, if you had no idea who directed this movie, you'd go, oh, it's a Terry Gilliam movie.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing. I love that.
That's like any other director might need to be like, well, for this movie, I can't use my plastic optoscope, weird magnifying face, fucked up makeup person. Right. But he'll squeeze them in. And in that sense, the whole thing is like an art installation or something.
Yeah. What I don't have enough of, we're going to have to pause here, guys, because what I don't have enough of is stainless steel that curves with tubes, more tubes than you'd think necessary coming out of it. And if you can, make sure everything has a sheen of grime and red to it. Like there's such a look to his movies. And you could say that about a lot of filmmakers, but Terry Gilliam's one of those guys that's just like, his style exists so much in the props and the set dressing. It's all there. It's very, very cool.
Well, and that's it even so this movie was written by a couple after watching a French film from the 60s called La Jetée about a dude who is being sent back in time travel and sees a woman. He sees someone get shot in front of a woman, and it was done with all still photography. So I guess you just kind of watch a slideshow go by. But
avant-garde.
But yes, oui.
That was French. Yeah.
Can you say it in Venezuelan?
Avantio Moneca. Moneca is one of those words. It means like everything. It's like shark in English,
or like dude.
Like it's just like dude, which also means shark.
Dude in Chinese is like shark.
I really don't think you can say that anymore, Kevin.
What?
You can't say dude in Chinese.
But you can talk. You can take the deaf and the Venezuelans out.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's right. That's right. This is 2020 in America.
2020 America right now.
We do anything we want, man.
We do whatever we want.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't matter anyway. Ponytail's about to destroy the world. So let's move on.
Yeah. But so anyways, I came to this going, it's a Terry Gilliam movie. And usually without breaking up who wrote it, who directed it, and who produced it, you just sort of get these things in your mind. At least I do. So I think Terry Gilliam's done the whole thing. But what I think is interesting is he just takes the screenplay and does it and says, let me do this without you cutting the endings of my movies.
Right.
And for some reason they say, yeah, if you deliver it on time, we'll let you do it. But like, it's so very Terry Gilliam to have a time machine that doesn't really work well, but it's actually not his idea. But when you get all those chords and like, I mean, the time machine looks like a colostomy bag pump tube,
that you get up. It's like you almost expect it to have these like cartoony, like boing boing noises.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you brought up a really good point in that Terry Gilliam's movies are notorious for being fucked with by the studios. You know, like his the theatrical ending to Brazil and the ending that Terry Gilliam intended are two completely different things. Um, and if you haven't seen the movie Brazil, see the movie Brazil. But I mean, also like The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, Time Bandits. Like he's out there, man. Like Time Bandits, as a kid watching that movie is fucking weird and
Absolutely.
but beautiful and weird. But the ending to Time Bandits is weird, and it's one of the few films that like he got through the door. And then yeah, so I mean, again, all he does is tell the story. You know, there's very little Terry Gilliam on screen as far as like his you know, he's not a political filmmaker. He's not much of a I mean, he's a storyteller without a doubt, but he doesn't inject himself into it. Like it's there. It's all there, and it's pretty friggin' cool. Bruce Willis is living in the future. The future kind of sucks. You know, everything is pretty shitty. The world's been devastated by this virus. He volunteers for some work, and that's where we find him in silicone and lycra going through downtown Philadelphia.
Well, and he volunteers in quotes. So he gets lifted from his cell underground because we can't live on the surface of the earth anymore because of the biological disaster release that killed 5 billion humans. And he talks between one prisoner, Jose, and himself about how, no, some of the volunteers are on the 7th floor, and they're like, no, they're all messed up, man. No one gets back from this, and they're like, well, you don't know that, man. And he gets picked up by a crane and then taken in and sent up to the surface to collect specimens, hopefully to find a pure strain of the virus. If we can get our hands on the virus, we can engineer something so that that we can get back onto the surface, man. And it's funny because it's kind of like it reminds me of Snowpiercers, but like with no train. Well, you know, they're just stuck in a shitville.
They're
man.
stuck
it's
in a
horrible prison.
I got to admit, man, like, and not to date this podcast, but as I was watching this movie, I felt an eerie sense of what's going on in the world right now. You know, like there was certainly I mean, without a doubt, the volume's turned up to 11, but there is a bit of a, we just want to go outside again, guys. And we need this to happen so we can just go outside and be people again. Because we're not people right now. Look at this place. And not only that, but I think it's really important to mention, this is one of the first times we get, outside of like Moonlighting, we get Bruce Willis as not the juggernaut, you know, like he's not really the, you know, I mean, you know, there's so many different versions of Bruce Willis throughout his career, but like primarily he's known as sort of like the tank good guy who, especially by the time they're on like Die Hard 7 and he's driving motorcycles into helicopters and stuff like that, he's like, you know, pretty clumsy, pretty much like a victim of his own circumstances, ends up in a nut house for most of the friggin' movie. And kind of rightfully so, because anybody who is listening to his story, he sounds friggin' crazy. And he's also, there's some innocence to it too. Like he's really just like very childlike and moving about this whole film, reacting to the things that are happening. You know, he's not very crafty necessarily.
Well, there's a sense of arrested development that we'll get to in him, in this character. But what happens, he's a good specimen collector, so they pick him for the time travel experiments. And they send him back in time. He's supposed to show up in 1996, do a little recon, and they send him to 90. So he's way ahead of his time. he wins the confidence of a sensitive psychiatrist, and I love. So first of all, the movie starts with a quote, which is him when they show him show up in the loony bin, and he says 500 billion people are going to die, blah blah blah, and it says said by a man in 1990 at Bellevue Hospital. But they say, you know what, they indulge him. He says there's a phone number. The phone number will straighten us all out. He calls up, and they show a lady at a house answer. Because he's in 1990, the phone number is not going to work the way it's supposed to. And part of me thinks that when the first idea, when the 12 monkeys are the main suspect, that he put this in the mind of Brad Pitt by mentioning it.
Yeah.
Right. And so maybe, I guess you can't have this happen if you already have a virus that's killed the planet and you send someone back before the virus has been released. I'm doing a time travel.
No,
thing.
but it's okay because
it can't exist.
What we're doing is we're doing what the movie did without doing it necessarily, because it plays on the whole every once in a while in a time travel movie, and it's usually an indicator of kind of some sloppy writing. Someone will turn to the camera, or Jeff Goldblum will show up or something and say, well, you can't do that. That's a paradox. This movie doesn't do that, but what it does do is serve up those same ideas, So what we get is shit. I arrived 6 years before I was supposed to arrive. Now I'm calling the phone number that I'm supposed to call. It's some woman with 6 different kids. I'm telling this guy, Brad Pitt, who is supposed to be the head of the 12 Monkeys army, about the 12 Monkeys, therefore incepting the idea of the 12 Monkeys, but it doesn't ever go, like, at no point does Bruce Willis go, oh my gosh, it's me. I did it,
Yeah.
It just kind of plays out, and he doesn't even have like a moment of realization as much as we're just left with that information. Yeah.
Well, and what's done really well is Brad Pitt, crazy as he is like, oh, you're crazy, mister. You're really out there, man. And as nuts as he is, they go on later to say Bruce gets sent back to 96. He finds the 12 Monkeys headquarters. It has been started by Jeffrey Goins, Brad Pitt's character. Bruce Willis might have given birth to the idea that there should be a radical group that goes and messes some things up. But when he goes in, but then you find that Jeffrey Goins has joined his father and has started working for his father. And so at this point, you're like, this is how he gets his hands on the virus that we know he and his crew released. Right. So he goes and breaks
the entire time. Look, it's the 12 Monkeys. The 12 Monkeys army are a radical terrorist organization that unleash a biological warfare upon the world that it has never seen. And so what starts to happen is we get the building blocks of a movie that we figure out in our head. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. He's now with the father, which isn't actually what happens. and it's kind of awesome to just like let it unroll.
Yeah. But I like how when you string Brad Pitt scenes together, there's a Bruce Willis goes and finds him at his father's black tie event, and Jeffrey Goins is still is contempt and crazy, but Bruce Willis confronts him, and Jeffrey Goins still maintains. He goes, "The 12 Monkeys, man. This is the idea I was talking to you about." And he goes, "No, man, that was your idea, dude." And he's still like, as nuts as he is, still maintains like, that's you, man.
Yeah,
that's you. And so
you're spilling those beans right there.
Yeah,
like that is not my deal. And this is from a guy like Brad Pitt plays this character so well. He's super unhinged, and we were just talking about how like he seems like he could go from just like I'm patiently listening to you but twitching to just super violent in a second, while also not like actually super violent. He's just completely unpredictable. I remember seeing this character and thinking like that's a hell of a job. Like that guy is doing a good job as an actor, even as a kid. And throughout this entire narrative, we've got Bruce Willis is like haunted by these dreams of himself as a child, in this era that he's now traveled back in like 1996, in which he witnesses somebody getting shot and killed in an airport. And it's sort of one of those things that like you feel it coming, like you feel like that's gonna happen eventually. In one of the scenes, it's very clearly Brad Pitt's character, the ponytail. That's Brad. He's got the long hair and the pulled back ponytail. And
who's being
Bruce,
gunned down in the airport.
Yeah.
There's this airport scene.
Yeah, and we keep on kind of chugging through this false narrative, but the whole while we're getting these glimpses of how deep this time travel, not conspiracy, but maybe agenda is. There are characters who are guards in the future who are also in the past. There are multiple agents who have roles, and it's never really addressed. Sometimes we just see them.
Well, but what is addressed is that this janky prototype time travel does leave effects. So even the second time that they're going to send Bruce away back into the proper time, he says, I'm not sure that this stuff is good for the brain. And it's just sort of supposed to be understood that this would quickly scramble the brain. Primer toyed with the idea.
Right.
You shouldn't be doing this too much. Dark toyed with the idea. In Adam traveling so much. And so it's easy to believe that perhaps, when Bruce Willis gets the help of Jeffrey Goins to escape from the madhouse in 1990, he comes across a security guard who is at once a security guard in the 90s, and then boom, turns into the face of the prison guard who we saw at the beginning of the movie. And so you don't know if you're watching the mind decay.
Right.
That madhouse escape is botched, and he's caught and strapped down, but was being monitored after all, and is pulled back into 2030 and disappears Houdini style from the cell, which I also thought was a great part of a movie. Just watching the skeptical doctor who doesn't think this guy's crazy at all, but there's no way he could have escaped. So there's already like an X factor going on in it.
Yeah. Who will then encounter him again 6 years in the future when he is sent back again. And this is kind of one of Terry Gilliam's, one of the cards he plays a lot is kind of showcasing what could be, and then going, no, it's actually this. You could take the entire ending of the movie Brazil and, use that as an example of just him. He spends almost a half hour on a narrative that ends up not being true in that movie, ends up all being part of a man's degrading mind. And so I felt like as I was watching this, that's kind of what we were getting. We were getting a little bit of the, is he now telling us that maybe this person is just in a madhouse and crazy? And that, maybe that's another narrative that we follow. So we get sort of all these like different threads that we can jump on, and some of the doors get closed on them and some of the doors get left open. So when he disappears, it is a very, very just cool moment. And it's aided greatly by the weird cast of characters that Terry Gilliam tends to add to these movies. The sort of council that's playing they're in charge of Bruce Willis's mission into the past. They're singing this old song to him. It's friggin' great. It's just like really, really fun Terry Gilliam stuff.
but that trip in 1990 plants the seed in that indulgent psychiatrist, and she begins to do research and document doomsday prophets. And Bruce Willis is part of that study, a guy who just says, hey, I'm from the future. Bruce Willis's cellmate, we see Jose, shows up as a guy who showed up in World War One, claiming to be not from that time. And of course, when they send Bruce Willis back to 1996, they accidentally send him into World War One first, and he gets shot in the leg, then gets zapped away and put right back into 95 or 96. So I love the contact that these people have on the time stream that we're supposed to be, trying to keep tabs on. And that influence is awesome. I think there's a point when that World War bullet gets extracted from his leg, which is impossible. It's just impossible. And it's so cool because we know it's not impossible as the watcher. Not to mention there's a picture of Jose on a gurney and a naked Bruce Willis in World War One trench, because he's like, traveling naked as they go in time. And it's just stark and crazy. It just sort of reminds me, like, can you imagine the guys in the war who had that happen to them? Like a whole other, like, imagine your grandpa, your great-great-grandpa has a story about how a dude appeared in the trenches in France naked claiming he was from another time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I just think that's kind of these scars that are scraped across by our 2030 folks trying to figure out a cure.
One of the elements of time travel that I always really, really loved was getting into the historical depiction of time travel. And it's something that I like when it pops up. Like, you'll see a photo of a guy from the 17th century that looks just like Keanu Reeves, and someone will say, is Keanu Reeves actually a time traveler? Which would explain why he never ages and things like that. But when they relaunched the Doctor Who series in 2015, one of the side projects they had was this fake fan-made website called Who is the Doctor? And it was this guy who was obsessive, posters on his wall with string connecting dots and stuff, with all these historical depictions of the man with the same face and everything. And, he was here in Catherine the Great, and he was here next to Winston Churchill. I love when that stuff gets interjected into our fictional narratives.
Which we should remind listener, if you hadn't been with us long, you should probably go. I know this is going to be a book recommendation. Sometimes some of you people read, but The Anubis Gates by Tim Powers is right up this alley of people showing up in history.
Yes, I understood that reference. I read that book.
I read that fucking book.
I read that book.
Wait,
all for you, Kevin.
You listened to it?
I listened to it. Yeah.
I read it to my boy again. He loved it. Anyways, he gets back into 96, kidnaps that doctor who he met in 90, and says, I got to go figure some shit out. And we got a kidnapped doctor who thinks she's a crazy patient, has been stalking her, finally made his move, and we're on the run. It's a real important clue there. There's a radio story about a kid who falls in a well, and Bruce Willis says, first of all, he says cool stuff like, I remember being real scared for that kid.
Yeah, right.
You start to realize that, Bruce Willis would be about 10 back in 1996. And he also get him to say, they'll find him in a barn. It was a prank. And this, of course, becomes the prediction that will flip the script on this doctor. And she realizes that Bruce Willis is telling the truth. He's not just some crazy guy who fits nicely into her doomsday prophet book.
Now, what happens with this the thing that I started to feel like was waning a bit was a little bit of the ambiguity of his. So he is sent to the past to obtain a sample of the virus, a clean sample, so they can provide some level of cure. Now, what I initially had billed as like this is just, it's weird that the way they go about the whole mission, because they think it's the 12 monkeys. He goes back. It's not the 12 monkeys. He's reporting back. Hey, it's not the 12 monkeys. And everything. What we end up having is a lunatic virologist who is pulled back. I can't remember the actor's name, but he's great. Like, he's just got this really boyish yet kind of evil face.
Isn't he a St. Elsewhere doctor?
He may be a St. Elsewhere doctor. Yeah,
I believe he's in St. Elsewhere. Yeah.
Well, shit, that would make him part of the whole Tommy Westphal universe then.
Exactly.
Ah,
snow globe shaking in my hand.
Snow
listener.
Globe.
You can't see that. I'll sign it in though.
Doesn't even matter because none of this movie happened. All happened in the sweet, innocent imagination of a small autistic child. Teardrop. Yes. Anyway, what I see happening here is what we talked a little bit about before, in that he needs to go back to have created this entire thing so that he could go back and get the virus. You know what I mean? Like, Bruce Willis sees somebody shot and killed as a child.
As a 10-year-old,
as a 10-year-old boy, right? He sees somebody shot and killed. This virus would not have been released had Bruce Willis not gone back in time and been a part of this entire thing, to therefore set into motion all the events that led to him going back in time, which then led to them getting.
I don't understand that.
I mean, you know, that it's basically
if he gets sent back in time. I think that the whole reason he sees someone get shot is because someone's already traveling, because the virus has already happened in the future.
Yeah, but the virus only happened in the future because of what happened in the past, Kevin. Now, make sure your eyes don't cross.
Well, I don't, it's hard for me to follow, as it probably should be, but I don't see it line up. So you're saying,
I'm saying that
you're saying, can you say this over and over again? Like,
oh yeah, I'll say it
because he saw the future. Because
I'll just say that repeatedly, and then eventually it will make sense. That basically, I mean, the whole thing's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, that he was not really meant to. He's meant to get a sample of this virus, but not really. They have the insurance policy, which is really what gets the sample of the virus at the end of the movie. This entire Bruce Willis's entire thrust is I believe to simply go back and die in front of his younger self.
Because then when he's older, he'll have vision
those
of himself being shot.
Yes.
Which will help him crack the case.
Which will, and not only that, but help him become a more of a, like, it'll lead to him being part of the time travel experiment.
I don't know. I mean, I think there was a kid who watched someone get shot in the airport.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was him. Or wasn't it? It could have been Brad Pitt.
No.
Well, that's the first time you see him. The first vision is Brad Pitt.
The first vision is Brad Pitt because he was incorrectly remembering that it was Brad Pitt. Like, that was it. The revelation is that it's not Brad Pitt. So when Bruce Willis as a child sees somebody get shot and killed,
Yes.
That then leads to, I mean, because what happens then is the virus is released. The virus is released. The world goes to crap. He lives whatever the hell life he lives. And he's sent back in time in a way to make sure. Wait a minute. No, that doesn't.
Yeah. Hold on, listener. We'll take a 7-minute break right now.
Well, let's take a 12
Don't
monkey.
forget Blue Diamond almonds, the best almond you can eat.
Do, 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 do.
You know, we could tell people who we are.
Do, 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 do. We don't even know who we are.
I know. I think we're Bruce Willis defying.
I mean, I was under the impression that we were bald dude dealing simian feces.
Dealing simian feces.
Why 12
Bald dude.
monkeys? Why 12 of them?
I like to put the commas in here, right? Bald dude dealing simian feces.
Well, we got biological disaster delves shitty future.
Biological disaster delves shitty present.
Biological disaster shelves shitty future. Yep.
And then there's a note under there. It says sloppy. Is it sloppy future?
No. That's the storytelling. I feel like Terry Gilliam has some trouble sticking the landing.
But this is, so I do think, again, I think you're doing what I was talking about. The people wrote this story. He just decorated it.
Yeah.
And made the people run around in it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as far as a director goes, he's a storyteller. I mean, I just think that
I would think if I write the story and then you direct it, aren't I standing there next to you saying, nope, you can't really have Little Bo Peep walk in right now because Little Bo Peep's not in the movie.
What would have saved this movie would have been Little Bo Peep walking in. You know?
Yep.
No, I mean, I felt like the mission of Bruce Willis was ambiguous, and there were like kind of shortcuts taken towards the end there when he's confronted with Jose at the end. I wish I had more resolution as far as what his character was supposed to do in that scene, other than seemingly just die in front of his past self. Because, listener, that is what ends up happening. I mean, we know it as soon as Bruce Willis and Madeline Stowe don the disguises that they're wearing, and he's got this horrible wig on, and she's got this horrible wig on as well. So we now know that he is actually the person that his younger self sees get shot. You know, and I felt like that just wasn't handled well. It was a little just like choppy. And
so I've got it now. I think, remember, the backbone of this was from a film from 1962. If you eliminate the child's dream,
yes,
from this movie, you still got a guy in 2030 who's sent back to go crack the case of the virus. And he gets close enough. And because of time travel, your report to the coded number that they monitor can be reacted to in less than a minute. You can literally get off the phone, and since they've heard it down the time stream, they can send someone back in to meet you to supply you with what you need based on what you just reported.
But when he reports and Jose shows up, what does Jose tell him to do?
You got to shoot him, man, or you don't get, or I'm going to come and kill you, I think he says.
So, I mean, that to me gave Bruce Willis no avenue, but I'm going to draw my gun in front of a large group of police and get killed. You know, like
no. See, that's where I really thought he had a chance of shooting the guy holding the virus dead before the police shot him.
I did not think. I thought that was Jose's job in that situation, was to provide the period on the sentence so that Bruce Willis sees himself die.
He's supposed to get to the airport and ID him. And when he gets to the airport, he realizes that he calls in and says it's not the 12 monkeys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So by the way, that all the 12 monkeys did was release animals from the zoo.
They do basically a college prank. Like, they
College
fucking release
prank.
a bunch of losers that goins.
Yeah. Pretty 90s thing to do. Dude, in the 90s, if you were alive, people released animals from the zoo all the time.
It was hysterical.
I know.
You just be walking down San Bernardino and all of a sudden there'd be a panther.
Yeah. Pantherino.
When I used to think of Hollywood as a kid, I thought that women walked around with tigers on leashes just around Hollywood, because I had seen several movies that depicted living in Hollywood as like so madcap and crazy that beautiful women had like tigers on leashes and walked around with them and stuff. But been here 20 years, not one.
Not one tiger.
Not one. A couple horses, but
yep.
So
Common.
I do believe you're incorrect about this.
Well, so I can't remember the detail, but for some reason he gets to the airport and Madeline Stowe says it's him. They don't know who it is. They're being sent to the airport to escape, remember? That's what it is. Okay, so hold on. I'm remembering now. The airport is not part of his mission. The airport is him and her fleeing to Florida, and they say, if we're wrong, if you're crazy and there's no virus, we're kicking it in Florida. If you're right, we're kicking it in Florida. We're going to go. But Madeline Stowe puts it together that the guy who has the virus, she sees in a newspaper a picture of Goins' father. And in the picture is a small little corner slice of the perpetrator of this virus.
Yeah, which in
She
another
remembers he's the creep from her book signing, and that he works at the lab, and she just bumps into him at the airport.
Yeah, so he's right over there.
So while they're trying to flee, the whole plot, he's removed his tooth so he can no longer be tracked by the group. And while they're trying to flee this, she puts the story together. They weren't even going to call in the 12 Monkeys prank because the 12 Monkeys prank was ineffectual. You're probably crazy. So they're going to flee, but he says, I got to let him know. I got to let him know that it's the dude with the briefcase who works at the lab with Goins. So that phone call is reacted to within a minute. Jose shows up and said, you got to shoot the dude with the ponytail now. Or I'm going to get you or whatever. They're on to him. He knows he can't run away to Key West. Now the gig's up, right? So he goes to security and chases this dude down and tries to shoot him. I think that when he gets shot before shooting the perpetrator, Jose's there. He goes, we need insurance. Call someone, tell him to book a ticket. We need someone on the plane. I know he's going to San Francisco first. Bruce Willis just failed. Boom. And the movie ends with the perpetrator of the spreading of the virus sitting next to the woman we've seen give Bruce Willis his directives the whole time. And she says that, I'm Dr. Jones.
Yeah.
I'm in insurance or whatever. And we get it. She's the insurance plan.
Yeah. I felt like it was a kind of tossed together ending in an otherwise fantastic story.
So I don't necessarily think so, but I do think that what's throwing us off is this vision that he has. I'll be willing to bet that movie Le Jetée has a child watching himself get killed, and I bet they keep it in. But if you extract that all, you don't have this guy, because all those scenes really do is he just kind of wakes up in bed and he's had the dream and it's a little more developed,
right? But what you still have,
device, but
what you still have is the decision. Hey, you know what? The hell with whatever's going to happen here. 12 Monkeys was a college prank by a dumb kid who's trying to get back at his father. Let's go to Florida. Hey, as we're on our way to Florida, that's the dude who's crazy, who I met at my book signing. And I think, and then, okay, well, let me call it in and tell him, hey, 12 Monkeys isn't the deal. calls it in, and then so-and-so shows up with just really ambiguous, here's a gun, go take that dude out, because, you know?
Well, because he's the guy with the virus.
But for what reason? Like, they just need a sample of the virus. Like,
well,
and now, and that is after the virus has already been released. So it's just like, and so I believe that there is a connection between those two things, that you can't just link by going, all right, get that out of here. Because once you get that out of here, then everything kind of falls apart. And it's just like, well, then what the hell was the point of all the flashbacks and everything? I mean, I felt like those were kind of linchpins on the evolution of the story. It goes from like severe delusion to, I'm being convinced that it's this one thing when it's not this one thing, to now another thing, a little bit of a clearer picture, to now I'm there, I'm living it, and it's being fulfilled,
Well, I think it's possible that Bruce Willis could not have reported that the virus was released. So I think it's possible that they got a chance of shooting this dude dead, which will change the time stream. I mean, they would all end up above ground. It would have never happened. Or
Right.
they just want to shoot him dead, but it's already been released. He goes through security and a dude investigates his stuff. He has biological traveling papers, so it's no big deal. But you see the disease be uncorked,
and he looks a little apprehensive about it too. Like it's kind of a well-handled scene, where he's a little like, it's fucking out now. No, I didn't so much think that they were trying to stop the release of the virus so much as I was questioning why are his orders to now kill this guy if, okay, he fails, he ends up on a plane and he's sitting next to a woman. Is she going to now kill him? Is that the plan there? I really think that the only thing that made sense is we're directing him to do it so that he sees himself dying, because that's part of the entire timeline.
But I don't think he sees himself dying. Like, he doesn't know it's him. He can never know it's him.
No, he doesn't know it's him when he's a kid, but he sees somebody get shot and killed in the airport. And the only way that somebody gets shot and killed in the airport is if Jose gives a guy a gun and tells him to point it at another dude in front of a bunch of cops.
Which means, right. Yeah, this is an awful movie. This movie sucks so bad, man.
Sucked, man.
Jesus.
Terry Gilliam, this and Brothers Grimm, and now he just ruined.
Oh, it's funny, George, is I bet you've got a whole side of you which could tear Terry Gilliam down. You were about to go into it, right?
I love Terry Gilliam, man.
Except for Brothers
he
Grimm
is definitely
and Pinocchio extra large. And
I will say this about Terry Gilliam is that I feel at times he's like the Hunter S. Thompson of directors, in which like there's a street cred to liking him that doesn't necessarily translate to and I'm saying that having very little experience with Hunter S. Thompson. Like, I can't say, oh, I don't like Hunter S. Thompson writing, because I've read 2 fucking things he's done. But I like Terry Gilliam a lot, because a lot of his stuff freaks me out the way like a scary stuff as a kid used to freak me out. The tagline for Time Bandits is, it's every dream you ever had and not just the good ones. That's Terry Gilliam in a nutshell right there. And that movie is without a doubt an extension of that. It's a really, really solid, cool looking, great characters, time travel story with the bullet and the World War I thing is fantastic. I just felt like the bricks started to fall apart a little bit at the end, which has happened before with Terry Gilliam stuff. Like, you watch The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, and there's like 4 different endings, and they all kind of suck.
It's funny. I didn't. This thing held up. I didn't get like a thought that corrupted it. I think is what you've kind of exposed to us, is like, if you think about it,
I'm a virus, Kevin.
It's a virus. Yeah.
I'm dangerous, man.
It's
I'm
no
being
pop-up
wielded by
blocker here, if you know what I'm saying.
What sucks is I do know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I'm being wielded by a baby-faced ponytail wearing creep.
I want to say though that when the shooting scene happens, Bruce Willis and Madeline Stowe have fallen for each other in a really sick and desperate way, but nonetheless, there's a moment where she's been getting the ahas throughout, and in this slow-mo shoot scene, she realizes, and maybe this will unlock it. She scans the scene of the airport. And before you see her eyes lock, she gets a look of relief. And then she looks and sees a boy. And she realizes that the dream he's been talking about has been this moment. And I could only feel that she was relieved that though she was watching the person die, he was going to have a life to be lived. So, which does still make it a horrible, horrible movie.
In a post-apocalyptic Philadelphia.
Exactly.
Not even a cool. Well, Philadelphia is all right. I mean, they got good cheesesteaks.
They got something.
They do. Cold winters, man. You know. No, I mean, like anything. I have watched this movie. This was, I think, the third time I've seen it, and I would without a doubt watch it again, and I would tell others to watch this movie. And I think it's important. I think it's an important movie for all the things it gets absolutely right. And I don't even want to say that in a like, oh, it got this wrong, because that's kind of cheating it. I still enjoyed the hell out of it. I saw the same ending that you saw and felt that in my heart. You know, I felt completely a lot of it has to do with like Madeline Stowe. I forgot how good she is. Like, she's a great actress who kind of disappeared in the 90s. And she's just great. She's freaking great. She tells a story with her eyes, Kevin. And then Bruce Willis tells it with his partial butt cheeks, usually.
Which you see gets scrubbed twice in this movie.
Yeah, he's got full on. Bruno's got a full on butt cheek scene.
I'm sure they were like, you got to do that.
Yeah, it's in your contract, Bruce.
I feel like I got a virus to track down and eliminate from this movie now, with what you've exposed about its horrible writing. I got to figure that out. That's not right, man.
If you take most, and I know what you're saying, okay, yeah, he's the director, but if you take a lot of Terry Gilliam movies and you lay them out and you dissect them, a lot of them don't stand up to scrutiny. You know, there's always like the storytelling falls apart at some point, but that's not what we really discuss here, right? Like, we don't get into, well, this didn't work because it strained belief. What we get into are, where are the bigger ideas, and how did they serve science fiction as a whole? And in this movie, without a doubt, the name of the fucking movie is 12 Monkeys. To have a movie named 12 Monkeys and not like with a tagline or something, 12 Monkeys, the virus that ended the world, you know, is just, it's bold and brave. And this movie is a fucking classic example of really good science fiction.
I'm still tripping out on whatever that bullshit was about our mission statement about talking about sci-fi, man. Where'd you get that? What we do here
at Busy Dads Do Sci-Fi. All right, I'm sorry. What we do here is we tend to eat a little too much ice cream, and laugh at Kevin's ambiguous dick and fart jokes.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, man. Sorry. I was trying to pull it back into the realm of nobility.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, you know, where we are born from.
Born of nobility.
Born of. Damn it. That sounds better. Well, you're the poet here.
Exactly. Yeah. Did we get a piece of mail that we need to address?
Oh man, you know what? Nick from Jersey, good dude. He sent us an. All right, so hey dudes, very nice job on the Snowpiercer episode. I got a total beef with the plot hole that wasn't addressed, and I'm kind of upset that you guys didn't mention it at all.
Hey, Nick, we're very busy.
So we're busy dads. Nick sent us a
You know what? Hey,
scribbled-
hold on a sec, real quick. Nick, you figure out that thing that I'm having trouble with about this movie right now, okay?
Yeah, Nick.
I want a full write-up since you
Get
got some time on your hands.
Kevin's
What are you gonna say? Let Nick speak though.
Kevin's
please.
gonna lose some fucking sleep tonight, Nick. So
No, I'm not, because you're on the case, Nick.
So this is scrawled on a piece of notebook paper. So what I love is that this wasn't typed in the email. This was actually like written, and then a photo was taken and sent to us, and it says circumference of Earth 24,901 miles, hours in a year 8,760. And now, as we all know, there is a scene in Snowpiercer in which they celebrate a Happy New Year. There's a countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and then boom, Happy New Year. 24,901 circumference of Earth divided by 8,760 hours in a year equals 2.84 miles per hour, which would be the Snowpiercer train's top speed.
which is slower than the kiddie trains at Griffith Park. Yeah. So
now, I do want to posit. Yeah, I have a theory as well. I mean, so wait, he followed up with, even if the train took a very meandering path around the globe, the 1 year trio doesn't add up. But damn it, you guys have inspired me to watch it again. And now I would posit that perhaps they have an adapted concept of what a year is, and that a year is not 365 days or 760 hours, but that a year is maybe literally that geographical distance.
Well, that I also thought that, we only see them going really fast for what, a couple days, if not just a day. It could be going very slow in many other places. There could be parts of that track that require a whole different type of speed and stuff.
I was under the impression that their speed is needs to be a constant thing, though. Like that there was a
yeah, I guess so, right?
Geothermal deal. Like if they're not going at a certain speed, they're all freezing.
The perpetual motion.
Well, which Nick, apparently is less than 3 miles
sending. So is Nick? He wins a 12-ounce can of Blue Diamond almonds, doesn't he?
Nick, we will send you this empty bag of Blue Diamond almonds as soon as me and Kevin are finished eating it. Autographed.
We'll sign it though. We'll sign it.
Well, we're gonna sign it by. We'll have producer Vic sign it. Now, the last time we had him sign something, he littered it with expletives. It was really inappropriate. I don't think his name even made it on it. It was just
it actually. You sure that wasn't the note he left? You park like an asshole, you fucking moron.
Gosh, man, the children. Holy monkeys. Holy 12 monkeys.
Which children? Hey, sing the monkeys fall out of bed. What's he say? Come on, sing. We're busy dads.
We're busy dads.
What's the song about the monkey falling out of bed?
You got 12 little monkeys jumping in the bed.
Bruno
one falls out, bumps his head. One falls out, goes back to an ambiguous timeline and fails to stop a virus from being
and gets his ass scrubbed 2 times.
Mama calls the doctor, Madeline Stowe, and Madeline Stowe says, "Hey, no more monkeys jumping on the bed."
Yeah,
except
for you, big boy. Hop on in.
Come on
You're
in,
crazy,
there,
and I love it.
Gosh, yeah, I know. Yeah, this might be a little unethical, but guess what? I don't care. All right, because the heart wants what the heart wants, Kevin. And right now, the heart wants some lunatic time traveler in bed with me. There's an appeal to those who've traveled through time. An animalistic appeal.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of, I don't think he's a keeper. It was a little hard to believe she'd fall in love with him. Like,
He's not a keeper.
Yeah.
I mean, I question whether or not and this is where my cynicism pops in all the time. It's like, I question whether or not he'd be able to actually get a job at any point. Like anytime somebody like there's some cheesy romantic comedy and it ends with like the two of them together, I'm like, okay, well, so what happens when they break up in a year?
Right. Well, and so you touched on it a bit. This is a Bruce Willis role that he definitely got to play like something weirder, something not successful at what's going on. And
yeah,
I can't think of all the Bruce Willis roles, but
well, I mean, like John McClane and Unbreakable, and then Fifth Element. Like his sci-fi turns, his action turns. He's pretty much always, and then you've got like Bonfire of the Vanities and stuff like that, where he's playing a straight up dramatic role. But as far as being in a sci-fi flick, like, he's not an action star in this. There's a few, moments, but he's not like Bruce Willis. He's not Bruno.
Yeah. No, when he is like violent and successful, it's like, well, it's the bad criminal. I mean, he brutalized people. It's not necessarily someone who can handle any shady scene.
Right.
She's like, stop cracking his head open, and he's like, what should I stop? I just want to play rock and roll. I love the music on the radio.
I love the music. Oh, the beach. We should go to the beach. Let's go to Florida. Hey, I think I know that guy with the ponytail.
Key West is real. So there's a little bit. Think about when the doctor, it's like Madeline Stowe, starts putting it together. She calls Goins and says, hey, does anyone have access to your biological weapons? Because there's a guy, he's got a theory. He's just a patient, but I just got to check this out. And Goins Sr. is in the room with the guy who will perpetrate this. And the idea is that Goins hangs up the phone and says, we need to boost our security. And that the idea for the biological disease being spread is planted in that guy's head right there by Madeline Stowe calling Goins.
Which is implanted and goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is implanted in Madeline Stowe's head by Bruce Willis, which is implanted in Bruce Willis's head by the society that he's living in the future. So that him going back to the past to get a clean version of the virus was the inception of the entire thing, So, I mean, that's one of the cooler big ideas that's on display in this movie.
Which Nick's probably going to say, hey, congratulations, guys. You just figured out the movie.
and then it's back to warm water.
I love this Nick guy, man. Nick, figure it out.
Yeah,
together Nick. we can prove George wrong, Nick.
Nick, come on,
Join
man.
me, Nick.
Salt of the earth, this Nick guy. Nick from Jersey. Guy probably makes pizza in his backyard.
With a brick oven.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
He doesn't fuck. This guy don't fuck. He doesn't fuck around.
I bet.
I thought you said Vic. Vic was going to say. That's why I said back to warm water. Because as we all know, listener, if we don't perform to Vic's invisible standards, we don't get flavored seltzer.
And by the way, that water's only warm when it first comes out of the spigot. It can get cold on you quick.
Real quick.
Back in that garage, woof. With the pail, one bucket in the center for all your water stuff.
Interesting tint to it as well. They say water is supposed to be transparent. That is not my experience since working on this podcast.
Yep.
Maybe someday, Kevin. We get those numbers up, man. We get those numbers up. We'll get clear water. That's the promise.
Maybe, Nick, do you think maybe you can get like a couple of your buddies to listen to the podcast?
He's never seen clear water. The guy lives in fucking New Jersey.
I'm not talking about water. I'm just talking about numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Nick,
Hey, Nick.
we'll have clear water if you can get more people to listen.
Nick, do us a favor. You're going to be the East Coast representative of Busy Dads Do Sci-Fi. All right. So get on that in between slices.
Yeah. So take a nice button-down polo shirt and do any custom insignia you want on the pocket with a Sharpie and wear it to work. Busy Dads Do Sci-Fi, or any of the vile and X-rated BDDSFs we have.
Do you
could write Biological Disaster Delves Shitty Future on your shirt tonight and wear it to work tomorrow?
Do you assume that we are best represented by polo shirts? Is that
I wanted Nick to look nice. That's all.
All right. That's mighty nice of you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Nick. Hey, Nick, we're looking out for you, pal. We
only have your best interests at heart.
That's it.
So take this gun and shoot the next dude with a ponytail.
Take this gun. Hey, Bruno, listen to me. Look me in the eyes. All right. It's me. I'm your buddy. All right. I need you to take this gun. I need you to run into that crowd of cops. I need you to kill that guy in front of your 10-year-old self. Hey, and after that, it's beers and pizza on me. All right. Come on. Chin up there, Bruno. Go get him. What did you think was going to happen? Come on. Okay. Oh, that's great stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
You've done it again, Gilliam. You've done it again.
Gilliam.
Well, they can't all be time bandits.
Nope. They can't even all be Timios Crimios.
Well, one day he shall return.
So, listener, let us know if you want us to keep going on our time traveling suite. But I'll leave you with this. Perhaps we've already finished our time traveling suite and have just been sent back to make it better.
Oh, Kevin. When you do stuff like that, I want to travel to the past and kill you in front of your 10-year-old self.
Yep. Hold on.
Oh,
George,
who's
is that you?
Better open up. It's not me. It's just Jose.
Jose. Can you see?